Om Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. So we will continue from where we left. The Gospel of Holy Mother. We were discussing the reminiscences of Surendranath Sarkar. And though he was not earning much, somehow he brought a sari and a coin, a rupee. He was he was struggling even to survive. He didn't have a income, but his devotion was so much that he brought one sari for mother. Then mother said, why do you bring all these things? You are in financial difficulties already. You should not have brought this gift. So mother was so kind, but he had not mentioned about his financial difficulty to anyone. So he was surprised when mother understood, because mother could see, Holy Mother could see everything. And he was very surprised to see that even mother had taken, when she knew about his financial difficulties and was really grateful to her for her compassion. So then he simply said, Mother, everything that I own belongs to you. You are the Divine Mother. And it is only being presented by me to you. That's all I'm doing. What belongs to you, I'm giving it back to you. Even if a small fraction of what we earn is used for your service, then we shall consider ourselves to be fortunate. So at this, hearing this, mother observed, what a devotion, my dear. But then he immediately asked a very important question. We saw it last time. Mother, devotees call you Kali, Adya Shakti, Bhagavati, etc. That was very common. Many of the intimate devotees who knew her divine nature used to address her by that name, or even they had visions of Mother Kali as Bhagavati and others, other visions they had when they experienced or when they meditated on Holy Mother. Then he says in the Gita also, the saints Asita, Devala, Vyasa and others called Sri Krishna as Narayana himself. Not that Sri Krishna was recognized by everybody as an incarnation. So here Surendra Sarkar says, though many people would not call you that way, even in the Gita, only a few rishis like Ashita, Devala and Vyasa, it is there in one of the verses. So he says, they called him Narayana. Not all of them, all the people who came in contact with Sri Krishna addressed him as a divine incarnation or as Narayana himself. Sri Krishna himself told this to Arjuna. By mentioning it himself in the Gita, the idea has been still more emphasized. So he says Krishna has openly declared this in the Gita. So some such declaration, though others are saying, and I believe that, but I would like to hear from your own mouth. That was his intention. So he says, I believe everything that I've heard about you, about others telling about you, but I want to hear still, if you will please speak of it yourself. Just as Krishna removed all the doubts from the mind of Arjuna by declaring himself to be an avatar. In the Gita, many times he says, for the destruction of the wicked, Sambhavami Yuge Yuge, I come back again and again in different yugas. So Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashaya cha Dushkritam Dharma Sansthapanarthaya. So to re-establish religion, I incarnate again and again. So though others have been saying that, just as in the Gita, Sri Krishna declares this, why don't you please speak of it, your divinity yourself, so that my doubts will be dispelled. I want to hear from you directly whether what these people say are true. Then Holy Mother immediately said, yes, true they are, said the mother. After this, he had so much faith, and mother knew it. Otherwise, she would have, if somebody had asked out of curiosity, perhaps she would have discouraged or just dismiss this topic. But because she knew that here every word of mine will impact this devoted disciple. Whatever I say takes in 100%. So if I admit it, his faith will increase. So every time, if you see Holy Mother's life or Sri Ramakrishna's life, to some of the disbelievers, he or Sri Krishna or even Holy Mother, they just dismissed it. He said, oh, why people may say so many things? I am a simple devotee of the Lord. That is what Sri Krishna used to very often say when disbelievers asked him, just out of some idle curiosity or just some nothing serious about their question. There was nothing serious about most of the people who asked these questions. Even if Sri Krishna said yes, or even if Holy Mother had said yes, they would not have believed. So in such cases, the mother would just say, no, who am I? I'm just a human being. I'm just a mother. That's all. So, but she knew that Surendranath Sarkar, if I tell him that this is true, then he will believe it 100%. Though he has that belief, he just wants confirmation from the mouth of the Holy Mother. So then he said, Holy Mother, then he makes a wonderful prayer. He does not ask the Divine Mother to remove his financial difficulties. He was struggling a lot in his life, but he doesn't ask him. And that shows what kind of devotion he had, and why Holy Mother, he blessed him by saying, yes, these words are true, to increase his faith, because he was coming to Holy Mother as a genuine spiritual aspirant, not as a curious seeker who may be a little curious but was not sincere. He was not like that. So from the next sentence, next prayer, he submits before Holy Mother. He says, Mother, I just want this much. I want to see my chosen ideal, that is Ishta. Perhaps it was Sri Ramakrishna. I want to touch him, talk with him as vividly as I now see you and talk with you. Kindly bless me that state comes in my life. So mother immediately responded and said, well, your wish will be fulfilled. So even here she saw that it was not just an empty request he was making, just because to show that one has so much devotion. He was really speaking from the bottom of his heart. So mother could see that, and immediately she told him, your wish will be fulfilled. The next day, Surendranath Sarkar is continuing his reminiscences. He says, the next day when I saluted the Holy Mother before taking leave of her, I saw her smiling face and her very graceful appearance. Golap Ma strongly suggested to me. Now Golap Ma was there. So since he had come from some distance, I don't know from where he had come, said, since you have come all the way, why not visit Puri before going back home? Most of the people who came to Calcutta from some other parts of Bengal, they would just go further south and visit Puri before going. Puri is still a very important place of pilgrimage. So he says, why don't you visit Puri before you go back home? I replied, what more would I see? See the devotion he has. He said, what more do I need to see now? The holy feet of the mother are a million times more holy to me than Puri. I need nothing more. When the mother heard this, she was also very pleased, and she said, well, leave it. You don't need to go there. Means she knew that a person who has found refuge at the feet of the Holy Mother, what more should he strive for? The people who don't have faith, they have to go on places of pilgrimage just to renew their faith. But if one has faith, one has everything. As Holy Mother said, if one has faith, one has everything. So here, Holy Mother tells him, you don't have to go to Puri anymore. Then he writes about his second meeting with Holy Mother. He says, I saw Holy Mother for the second time at the Udbodhan house in May 1912. This time, the wife of Rajendra Mukhopadhyay and my wife received spiritual initiation from her. On this occasion, I mean, at that time, the wife of Rajendra Mukhopadhyay and his wife, both of them took initiation in May 1912. He had already taken initiation. He wanted his wife also to take initiation. On this occasion, I could not have any significant talk with the mother on account of Radhu's illness. My mother, grandmother, and two sons who had accompanied me were blessed by seeing the mother and touching her feet. So that is what he remembers. Then he says about this incident, he has not mentioned much. The second meeting. The third meeting, he says, I saw mother next at Jairambati in 1913 after a period of 1 year. It was 3 or 4 days before the marriage of Bhudev, mother's nephew. So Bhudev was mother's nephew, and just a few days before his marriage, he arrived at the Kolpada monastery where Holy Mother sometimes used to stay, and he heard that one devotee, Dwarkanath Mazumdar, had passed away at Kolpada on his return journey after meeting the Holy Mother. So he had just come to know that mother was in Jairambati. She was not in Kolpada, but sometimes she used to stay there. And this devotee, Dwarkanath Mazumdar, he went to Jairambati, and on his way back, when he went to Kolpada on his return journey after meeting the Holy Mother, he passed away. So this news, he got this news when he arrived at the Kolpada monastery before going to Jairambati. Swami Keshavananda observed. Swami Keshavananda was, I think, perhaps the head of the Kolpada monastery, was looking after that monastery. He said, Mother has prohibited all from going to Jairambati now. There is a spell of drought there. None should go there before the rain set in. So naturally, I became a little worried. Now, Keshavanji said, don't go to Jairambati. Mother, perhaps she did not have enough to feed everybody, and drought was going on. So I think the food grains and other things were very scarce because of the drought. So naturally, he was worried. He had come all the way just to see mother. I had already covered such a long distance, but then how could I disregard mother's instructions and proceed to her place? So he took rest, and after the noon meal, strangely enough, by the grace of mother, a shower of rain started falling. Because she had said this year there is no rain, and that is why nobody should come here because the crops will all die. But suddenly there was a rain. Next morning, he went to Jairambati to pay his respects to Holy Mother. After exchange of a few preliminaries, the mother said, my son, we had a nice shower of rain yesterday. It is rather cool today. So she mentioned that it was raining in Jairambati also. She perhaps did not realize that he was in Kolpada. She knew he was in Kolpada, but she just told Surendra Sarkar that, see, the rain has come and now things will be much better. Referring to the devotee who had recently died, that is that Dwarkanath Mazumdar, who visited Holy Mother and on his way back died at Kolpara, mother said, he died the death of a holy man. I can see him as it were even now. I mean, she could see his subtle body. I feel sorry for his bereaved old father. With these words, the mother started weeping. She literally wept as if he was her near and dear one, because for her all were her children. So she knew that he died as a holy man, but she was feeling sorry for his old father, who perhaps for whom this shock would have been too much. So she was weeping on account of his father, but she knew that since he died the death of a holy man, as it were, even now I can see, that means she could see these departed souls, that they were in a good state of mind, or maybe they were in a good state even after passing away. At that time, Brahmachari Devendranath arrived at Jairambati from Varanasi. He used to say that he could know the details of his past life. So there was one Brahmachari Devendranath who came to Jairambati at that time from Varanasi. And he claimed, or he used to say, that he could know the details of his own past life. He had told me 4 or 5 years earlier that I was a spiritual preceptor in my previous birth. So he was saying that you perhaps do not know me, but I was your disciple and you were my guru in my previous life. So he had a capacity, a strange capacity to judge people and know what they were in their previous lives. But Surendra Sarkar said, maybe I don't know, but I knew nothing about it. I used to laugh away these talks. Whenever he heard from Brahmachari Devendranath, he just started laughing. What is this? How can I be your guru in the previous birth? Spiritual preceptor. As soon as both of us presented ourselves before the mother, she herself said, then just as if confirming this fact, it's not that Brahmachari Devendranath was telling something which he had not perceived. He said, mother herself confirmed. She said, earlier you two were at the same place and now you have come together once again. Hearing this, without their mother was not aware of what Devendra had told Surendra Sarkar. He somehow had an intuitive feeling and knew the details of his own past life and Surendranath's past life. And he said, see, you are my spiritual preceptor. Now we are meeting again. And the same thing Holy Mother confirmed. Of course, she did not mention who was whose guru, but she said earlier you two were at the same place. Now you have come together once again. Hearing this, Devendra did not say loudly, but he just whispered, now look, now do you see that all I told you was true? I replied, it may be, but I do not know anything about it. That means he was not keen to capitalize or to give any importance to the fact that he was a guru. Maybe he was some family guru or something, but he was not egotistic. He was so humble that he says, maybe I may have been your guru, but what of that? Now we are all, both are disciples of Holy Mother. That is more important. What we were in our previous lives. Perhaps you have some powers, you might be knowing all those things, but I am not interested. So he said, it may be, I don't know, but I know nothing of it. That shows what kind of character this Surendranath Sarkar was. He was so devoted that he did not even feel elated when he heard about his relationship with Brahmachari Devendranath in a previous life. Though mother confirmed, gave a hint that it was true that both of you knew each other. So many times it happens that people don't meet by chance. There is some connection of the previous life or maybe many lives before, which enable people to come in touch with each other. The karma somehow brings them together in a good way or a bad way, but they meet each other. After leaving the mother, Devendra pleaded with me. I have come here. Devendra, who was Brahmachari Devendra, who was a Brahmachari, and who was telling Surendranath Sarkar, who was just a householder. He was telling me that you were my guru in my previous birth. But he, after leaving mother, Devendra pleaded with him, see, I am a brahmachari, I have come to receive initiation into sannyasa from the mother, but my desire won't be fulfilled unless you make a formal request to her. So you have to make a formal request to mother on my behalf. Perhaps he thought that because mother herself had admitted that we both were connected to each other in the previous birth and have come, perhaps she will listen to you because you were my spiritual preceptor in the previous birth. So the master has brought you here too, because my prayer will not be granted without your consent. So he says, perhaps it's Thakur's wish that I can, because of you in my previous birth, since you gave me guidance, this time you have come here just to convince mother so that I get sannyasa. At Varanasi, he said, I saw Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother in a vision and talked with them. I replied, this is what Devendranath told, Brahmachari Devendranath told Surendranath Sarkar. So he said, I am not going to tell her anything on my own initiative. Let me see what happens. Devendra said, it won't do. Let me see what happens. So Devendra said, It won't do. I say it won't do. You have to tell. So he was literally forcing Surendranath Sarkar. He said, no, I'm not going to tell anything. Request mother on your behalf. She knows when she should give you sannyas. He had so much faith that he did not want to ask anything. He was just satisfied. That is a great virtue. Sri Ramakrishna Swami, Srima Sarada Devi used to say, contentment is a great virtue. Santosha, that is the word. One who is content in life has everything. That is one of the greatest virtues. So you see here, Surendranath Sarkar, he was content with anything. He did not even want, when he was told that you are my guru, other people would have been overjoyed and would have gone. And even when Holy Mother confirmed, he just took it very lightly. He said, I'm not going to bother what I was in my previous life. What is more important is what I am doing with this life. I want devotion. I want to see my Ishta. I want. So that kind of devotion he had, and he was so much detached. He said, I'm not going to tell her anything on my own initiative. If she feels, why will she not? She had so much faith that Holy Mother knows everything. So why should I go and interfere or ask on your behalf to give you sannyasa? If she knows you are fit for sannyasa, she will herself give. So he continues. He said, we had been staying at Jairam Bhatti for 7 or 8 days. In the meantime, Devendra was found to have become quite restless, which struck me as something unusual. However, one morning I saw Holy Mother all alone and said, Mother, can I say something? He found, the Surendra Sarkar saw that Holy Mother was alone. There was nobody. Even Brahmachari Devendra was not there. So he asked her, Mother, can I say something? Smilingly, the mother replied, well, please come a little later when I prepare the vegetables. So she used to normally give interviews to her disciples and others whenever she was dressing vegetables. After a while the mother began dressing the vegetables, as soon as I went up to her, she said, you can now tell me what you wanted to say. I said, Mother, you are quite aware that Master appeared before Devendra in a vision. You too blessed him similarly. Now he wishes to take the vow of sannyasa. He is not going to continue in the worldly life. Then why not please grant him his prayer? So finally he decided that Holy Mother knows that Devendra had a vision of Thakur and Ma, and then he has come and she has blessed him with Diksha, Brahmacharya. He is already a Brahmachari. Then Mother smilingly said, if he takes the vow of sannyasa, will it cause any suffering to others? I replied, Holy Mother was asking Surendranath Sarkar. Devendra was not present. So she was just making sure that if he takes sannyas, will it cause suffering to others? Then I replied, his parents are already dead. He has one elder brother who has embraced Brahmoism, but he is an earning man. I don't think his sannyasa will cause suffering to anyone. So he doesn't have parents, they're already dead, and his brother is earning. So I don't think why should anybody suffer on account of his taking sannyas. Then Holy Mother said, all right, his prayer will be fulfilled. Get a new cloth dyed ochre from the Kolpada monastery. He will be given sannyasa tomorrow itself. So I disclosed everything to Devendra, who was extremely delighted. And all the preparations were made. Next morning, the Holy Mother performed the worship in front of the picture of Sri Ramakrishna and handed over to Devendra the new Gerua cloth and loin cloth. She asked Devendra to see her after changing into the new clothes, the new Gerua clothes. He was wearing white dress. So he was asked to change into after ordaining him into sannyasa, said, you change the old clothes and wear this Gerua and come. I was sitting near the Holy Mother brooding over my situation. Just then Mother, as if understanding my feelings, said tenderly, son, you will take the sugar syrup offered to the master. So she didn't say, in his mind he was also perhaps had a wish, something, but since he was married, it was difficult. So she said, don't worry, you take the sugar syrup which has been offered to the master. She herself said. So he agreed, and mother herself drank a little of that prasad and lovingly handed over the glass of syrup to me. In drinking the syrup which mother had also taken, I considered myself blessed. I thought, compared to this good fortune, what is there in sannyasa? This is not even within the reach of gods. My heart was filled with a wondrous feeling. So he was in a totally different mood. He did not bother. He was so content. And when mother herself says, I'll give you this syrup, after offering to Thakur, she herself took. He said, what else do I want? I've got the grace of mother, and she herself has fed me, or maybe given me this, and definitely her blessings will be with me. When Devendra entered the room with the ochre cloths on and saluted the Holy Mother, she said to me, do you see? He's a new man, as it were. He is no more that old self of his. Then this is what Holy Mother said. See, now he has worn this gerua and he has become a totally different person. Uncle Kali, the mother's second brother, Prasanna and Kali, they were two brothers of Holy Mother. Younger one was Kali, who was also Bhudev's father, began to persuade me to accompany the party in connection with the marriage of his son Bhudev. His son was being married, so he said, why don't you come? But he did not want to go, and he wanted to stay with the mother. Mother appreciated my attitude and intervened, saying, no, he need not go. Let him stay here. So she was very particular that if somebody doesn't wish to get entangled in social events and social functions and just wanted to be devoted to their spiritual practices, they should not be, they should not, nobody should interfere in their attitude. He said, why should he go? Is it necessary that everybody should go to the marriage function? If somebody doesn't want, let him stay here. He has come here for spiritual purposes, not come here for socializing. So anyway, Brahmin cooks were busy cooking for the marriage feast. Devendra and I were watching them from a distance. Observing us looking at that, the mother said, you make fun of them because they do not wear the sacred thread. But who can equal them in cooking? So in those days, normally the inferior Brahmins or some other people belonging to an inferior, so-called inferior, they were not nothing inferior or superior about that. They would not be allowed to wear the sacred thread. So the people who wore sacred thread used to normally feel proud that we are far superior. We are not those Brahmins who will go and cook. We are spiritually more evolved, or maybe higher in hierarchy. So observing that, mother tried to make tell them that don't think because they are cooking and they don't wear the sacred thread, you are superior. Who can equal them in cooking? So the idea was that if somebody is capable of doing his or her own job nicely, doing his duty, his or her swadharma, if one does perfectly, then what is the use of external insignia like sacred thread and other thing? That doesn't make one a spiritual person or a better person. So as part of the marriage festivities, one of a group of athletes broke into pieces a stone placed on his chest. So many such athletes and performers are invited. That is how marriages are celebrated. There's so much of fanfare and luxury and many things people spend. So they bring some magician or they bring some performer. So something goes on. So one group of athletes were invited both for Bhudev's marriage, that is Kali, uh, Holy Mother, Holy Mother's brother's son's marriage. So perhaps he had some money, so he wanted to spend it and show that he can also. So a group of athletes came, and one of them kept a stone on his mm, chest and was pounding it to pieces. The mother was constantly praying, "Oh Master, please protect him." When the performance was over, mother asked me, "My son, Do they know some mantra? That is, how do they do it? It looks like a miracle. Then Surendranath told, no, mother, there's no such thing behind this display of strength. He has gradually mastered this feat by constant practice. So Surendranath Sarkar is trying to explain to mother that there's nothing miraculous. These things many people do. They start with softer stones and then they go on breaking the stones on their chest. Their chest becomes very strong. So he said, once I heard a story that an American cowboy used to carry a calf in his arms every day to a far off grazing field. So that was the habit. So he used to carry a calf. Everybody can carry a calf. But slowly, he says, it gradually grew into an ox. Still, he could carry the ox and used to surprise others by his great strength. All this is the outcome of practice. So he used to carry that calf, and as it increased, the weight of the calf increased and it became a big ox because of the practice, because of lifting a little every day, little heavier animal. As it was growing, it naturally put on weight. But because of that practice, he became strong enough to lift the fully grown up ox. So Surendra Sarkar is telling mother that similarly this person who has been called here, there's no mantra involved in that. He's doing it because he has trained himself. He has practiced for many years. That is how he is doing it. Then mother said something very significant. Perhaps she knew she wanted him to explain so that she could give a similar example from our spiritual life. Mother said, well, do you see how effective the power of practice is? This may be true as far as lifting an ox or lifting a calf which grows up into an ox is concerned, or practice may also lead to breaking stones on one's chest. It's all a result of practice. All the different physical feats that we perform are a result of practice. So he says, in the same way, the man achieves the highest goal through the practice of japa. Japat Siddhi, that is the famous word she uttered. Japa leads to success. Japat Siddhi means japa leads to success. Success in the particular spiritual field. Yes, japa leads to success. So she immediately said, see, can you see these feats? The wonderful feats which look like miracles. So also, japa also, if you constantly do it as instructed by the Guru, it can also lead to Siddhi. Then he says, in the biography of Nagmashe, it is mentioned that once the Holy Mother herself fed Nagmashe with some food, after herself tasting a bit of it, thus converting it into her prasad. Now he was so overwhelmed by the gesture of mother. Nagmashe was so devoted that Nagmashe started shouting, "Mother is kinder than father. Mother is kinder than father." When I read this portion of the biography, Surendranath Sarkar is saying, it struck me, will the mother ever feed me in this fashion? How lucky was Nagmashe to have been fed by Holy Mother by her own hands. He was a grown-up person, a great devotee of Thakur. But he was so delighted by this kind act of mother who herself fed Nagmashe that he started shouting, "Mother is greater than father, mother is greater than father." So that he had read. So Surendra Sarkar was also thinking that perhaps he was just wishing in his mind that if mother fed me like she fed Nagmashe. But he decided that I will not express this desire to the mother. Let it happen only if she chooses to do. She is so content with whatever Holy Mother gives. That's why Holy Mother gives so many things. I mean, spiritual treasures are being shared. Those who don't want, those who do not seek, they will get. As Jesus said, the one who will be the last shall be the first. That is in the kingdom of heaven. Those who don't run after the worldly success and other things. He had absolutely was content. If mother gives him prasad, it's okay. If she doesn't give him prasad, then still it is okay. So then he decided that if I really deserve it, then mother will give me that prasad. Let it happen only if she chooses to do. If she chooses, she will give me. Otherwise, why should I bother? So much of contentment and faith in Holy Mother he had. Strange enough, one day she fed me with consecrated food in that very way, the same way she fed Nagmashe. So, next, at that time, a monk who did not belong to the Ramakrishna order but was known to the Holy Mother came to Jairambati. One morning, I was taking food. The new Swami too was sitting there a little away from me. The mother said to me, "My son, do you think accepting ochre robes is as simple as that?" Then pointing to the monk, the mother said, "Just see what he has done." To me, she said further, "What's the necessity of ochre robe? You will have everything even without it." Now, we do not know what he had done, but anyway, mother was upset. So he says, uh, that Swami who had come, who did not be, of course, he did not belong to the Ramakrishna order. Maybe he was wandering here and there and naturally would have uh, done something, but we do not know what. He just pointed to that monk. So why are you so keen to wear the gerua? Just to console Surendranath Sarkar, they don't think that because you don't have gerua, you will not make spiritual progress. So he had brought a pair of saris for the Holy Mother. As I presented them to her, I said, "I hear that you distribute presented clothes to others, mother, but I shall be greatly delighted if you will kindly use these clothes yourself." So he had brought two saris, and he knew that Holy Mother would never hoard anything. Anything that was given to her, she used to share with others. And she used to present her own clothes that were given by the devotees. He said, "Please, my request is you should wear these clothes. Please don't give it to others." When the mother heard this, she said nothing but smiled. And then she went away. When I went to see her the next day, she said, "Look, my son, I have put the cloth you had brought." So she wore it. He was so extremely delighted that mother has agreed, and his devoted but simple but devoted wish was fulfilled. On my humble supplication, he writes, the Holy Mother gave me one of her old saris. While handing it over to me, she said, "It is quite unclean. Please wash it." I said, "No, mother, I want to preserve it exactly in the condition in which you have presented to me. I don't want to send it to a laundry." "Well, as you please," replied the mother. So he said, "Something which has been worn by mother, I don't want to wash it. That vibration should remain." So he said, "I'll not do anything. I'll just keep it in the same condition as you have given me." So mother was happy. She said, "Okay, do whatever you like." One day, Devendra and I presented ourselves. Devendra means that Brahmachari Devendranath who had got sannyasa from mother. Before the mother, while she was taking food, mother asked, "Would you like to have prasad?" Both of us extended our hands to receive it. After she had partaken of a small quantity of food, the mother gave a good amount of it to each of us. Lest it should fall from our hands, she pressed it, placing it on our palms. The mother belonged to an Orthodox Brahmin family, and I belonged to a Kayastha family. With an utter disregard of caste rules, she touched my hand and began taking her food. Indeed, she looked upon us as her own children. Now, it was a custom those days that Brahmins would not uh, touch the kayasthas, lower caste. It was so fanatical in those days. People were so fanatic that even they felt that by touching lower caste people, and he was a kayastha. So still mother came and took that prasad and touched, held his hand and deliberately, just to show that she was beyond all caste rules, because she looked upon everybody, irrespective of his caste, creed, religion, as her own own children. She used to consider as her own children. So how can she make any distinction? So whenever I went to see the Holy Mother, I brought fruits or some other articles that I could procure. I had heard that mother could not offer to Sri Krishna things that were brought by anybody and everybody. And so I sometimes feel an apprehension whether the mother would accept our presents because of our not being very pure souls. But I used to feel reassured on the mother telling My son, I presented to the master the article you had brought. It was quite good, very sweet. I too have partaken of it. So she made it very clear that sometimes she did not offer, but of course, because other people will feel hurt, she would not offer it to Thakur. Somehow she had an intuition that these people are not good, their intentions are not good. So those things she would give it to somebody else. She would not offer to Thakur. But every time Surendranath Sarkar brought some fruits, she would not only offer, but just for confirmation, because he was keen to know whether my offerings are offered to Thakur or not. But he did not dare to ask Holy Mother. But she herself told him, the article that you brought yesterday, I have offered. Not only that, I have also taken the prasad of Thakur, and then I have distributed. So it was very sweet. It was very nice. One day I asked her, Mother, does not the practice of repeating God's name gradually reduce the accumulated effects of a man's past actions? So his question was, if we practice repeating japa, God's name, gradually will it reduce the accumulated effects of a man's past actions? Everyone must experience the consequence of his past actions, the mother replied. See, she says no. She doesn't say it will not reduce, but everybody has to experience, because actions, the reactions or the cause will lead to some effect. So the mother replied, nevertheless, if you remember, the remembrance of God's name helps one this much. Instead of losing one's leg, one may suffer merely from a thorn entering one's foot. So maybe because of karma, you had so much bad karma that you would have lost your foot. But maybe that by constant japa and constant repetition of the holy name, perhaps you will get away with a small thorn entering your foot and causing some pain. So you have got the effects of your karma, but they have been minimized. That is what she wants to say, that the effects of a person's past actions cannot be totally, the consequences cannot be avoided. But even if the consequences come to one, it will be come in a milder form because of the amount of japa that we have done. Then I said to Holy Mother, Mother, I can hardly perform spiritual practices and I don't think I shall ever be able to do. The mother assured me, saying, anybody would have been upset when he says, I can't do, I am hardly perform, because he was so busy, perhaps struggling to earn a living. Then mother assured him, said, what else will you do? What are you doing now? Remember that the master is behind every one of you. I too am behind you. So she gave an assurance, whether you do a lot of japa or less japa, just remember this. The master is there protecting you, and the master, I am also there behind you. One day the mother observed that Radhu was feeling restless owing to illness. She said to Surendranath Sarkar, oh my son, please see what's the trouble with Radhu. I did not know how to feel the pulse. However, to satisfy the mother, I felt Radhu's pulse and said, oh, there is nothing serious. She is somewhat weak. Please give her some milk to drink. The mother was of a childlike nature, immediately began feeding Radhu with milk. After a while, Radhu's mother came and seated herself close to Radhu. This made the latter excited, and she did not like the idea that her mother should stay nearby. So Radhu had some peculiar tendencies. So she didn't want her mother, because she loved Holy Mother so much that she sometimes used to be angry on her own mother. Pushing her a little away with her hand, Radhu said, please move away. The Holy Mother's hand accidentally touched the feet of Radhu's mother. Being already very much perturbed, she cried out, why have you touched my feet? What will become of me? Now, instead of this Radhu's mother was a crazy woman. Now, she thought that accidentally my leg has gone and it has accidentally touched mother's hand. So what will happen to me? It is maybe I have committed a sin. So that is how some of the worldly people behave. They think, oh, I have done this, I have done that. It's not what you do, whether the attitude behind it is important. She had not deliberately touched her feet, touched the feet, her own feet to Holy Mother's body or her hand. She didn't do that. So why should she bother? But she was saying, what will become of me now? The mother had a hearty laugh at the behavior of Radhu's mother. Ras Bihari Da, who was standing nearby, said, Mother, you see how this madcap of a woman speaks ill of you always and even tries to hurt you. It was her mistake, and she is saying that my leg went and accidentally hurt, touched your hand, touched your body. So what will happen to me? Even that is mother's fault. So Rasbihari Maharaj was very much angry when he saw what kind of madcap woman is this. She is blaming everything on you. But now she seems to be frightened because your hand has touched her feet. The mother said, in spite of his knowing that Rama was but Narayana, the infinite Brahman himself, and Sita was the primordial Shakti or energy, the mother of the universe, Ravana nevertheless created so much trouble for everybody. Does not the mad woman know who I am? She knows everything. Yet she creates all this confusion. So she is saying, Radhu, though she may not understand, though she understands who Divine Mother is, but Maya makes her forget and she behaves and creates all this commotion and misbehaving with Holy Mother. Referring to the rheumatic pain in her own leg, rheumatic pain in her leg, Surendranath Sarkar told her, Mother, I hear that you are accepting the sins of others and that is responsible for this illness of yours. You are suffering pain because so many people come, impure people come and touch your feet. So if you allow them, you will have this. I have one earnest prayer to you. Kindly don't suffer on my account. I don't know other people because they touch. If I touch you, please don't suffer on my account. I hope I am not making you suffer. The kindly allow me to undergo sufferings of my past deeds. Said, you don't take away my sins. Whatever I have committed, let me work out my karma, let me suffer, but you don't suffer on my behalf. Like other disciples, they touch your feet and hope and believe that you will take away all their sins. I don't want to, I am ready to undergo sufferings for my past deeds, but I don't want to transfer it to you. The mother replied, how is that possible, my son? Let all be happy. I shall suffer for them. So that was her attitude. Said, why should it? How is that possible? Anybody who touches me, I take away all their sins. What an unfathomable manifestation of compassion I saw in her that day. So this moved him very much. Instead of saying, yes, that is fine, she says, no, 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 you can't bear the results of your own karma. I have taken it upon me and you are my disciple. I will take care of your sins and your problems. If you have taken up the sins of others, I can mitigate it. I can do something to remove that. Prior to leaving Jairam Bati, as I prostrated before the mother, she placed her hand on my head, on Surendranath Sarkar's head, and mentally repeated the name of the Lord. She was doing some mantra. Then she said affectionately, ah, they feel like staying with me, but what can they do? They have so much of household work to look after. Expressing, so she was very sorry that Surendranath Sarkar had to leave. Though he wanted, every time he came, he wanted to stay here as long as possible. But then his work, they have so much of household work to look after, so they have to go back. Expressing her solicitude like the mother of a man bound for a far off country, the mother walked with me some distance from her house and stood gazing with her eyes full of tears. That is, every time a child or a devotee left Jairam Bati, she used to come out of her house and try to just wave and see them off, and till they had vanished and they were no longer visible, she used to stand there. So it was so touching. And her eyes also were full of tears when she had to say goodbye to some of her dear children, dear devotees. So that scene, our Surendranath Sarkar had seen, and he was wondering what kind of gratitude and gratitude I should feel for Holy Mother to express our compassion in this way and shed tears when we leave. So we will conclude, and if there are some questions, let me take it, or otherwise we will continue on Thursday. Yeah. There are no questions, so I'll take your leave. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.